This is a really big issue amongst French learners, the masculine versus the feminine in French, especially if your native language doesn't actually have grammatical gender. For example, if your native language is English, it might be a very foreign concept to you to imagine a table being feminine versus a horse, for example, being masculine. So you might be a bit lost when it comes to this. Before we dive into this lesson, I have a few things to tell you. First, hello, I am Marie. I am the founder of Just French It. You can find me at justfrenchit.com, and I am a native French teacher, and I'm here to make you speak French. Okay, that's my primary goal, is to make you speak French, to make you experience French, a little bit beyond the grammatical rules and the way you're supposed to be speaking French. Okay, my goal is for you to speak French. So here, the goal of this video is going to be to unblock you when it comes to masculine versus feminine, and to answer all those little questions that you might have in your mind that don't necessarily make sense. And to have you be able to speak or to use the masculine and the feminine gender in French. Okay, cool. Now that this is said, if you are a beginner, which a lot of people who are asking me about masculine and feminine are, please understand that grammar, French grammar, is something that is a construction. It's built upon the language that is already there. Okay, so grammar is sort of going to be able to explain to you French, but really it doesn't replace practice. And if you are a real beginner right now, that you have zero experience when it comes to French, that you haven't spoken French with someone, even if it is like a few lines, a few greetings, then go and do that before you actually get interested in grammar. Okay? Cool. Now, let's start with our topic of the day, which is grammatical gender. What is grammatical gender? Well, grammatical gender is different, and that's really the key here. It's really different from sex or from physical gender, or however you want to call it. I don't want to get into these issues of gender here today. I'm going to talk about grammatical gender. And grammatical gender doesn't mean that an object, an animal, or a concept is a woman or a male. Okay? It means that the noun or the word itself is of a certain gender, and it's going to influence how it is spelled, how the other words in a sentence respond to this word. Okay, it's a way to link all the words of your sentence together, to make a uniform sentence, if you will. Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with sex. Okay, a table, for example, is a feminine word in French, and we'll see that in a minute. It doesn't mean that a table is a woman. Okay, it just means that a table is a feminine word. Okay, cool. So really make that distinction between the object itself and the word that is used to refer to this object. Okay, cool. Now, second really important things that I want to talk about is it really important to know if a word is masculine or feminine? And I've just told you that if a word is masculine or feminine, it's going to influence the other word in a sentence to be able to make one block, to make one sentence that go together, if you will. Well, so in that case, yes, it is important. If you want to speak fluent French, if you want to be able to express yourself fully, without having French people wondering what it is that you meant, that in that case, you really do need to understand the difference between masculine and feminine, and how to influence and modify your sentence according to the gender of the nouns that are in your sentence, okay? But it's not hugely important if your goal is only to be able to communicate. If your primary goal is to get an idea across, a simple idea, for example, saying hello, how are you? Or saying I want a kilo of potatoes, then in that case, grammatical gender doesn't really matter, because people will get you either way. Okay, so it's important if you want to reach for fluency, but it's not so important that it will influence your communication. Okay, that's really key to understand. So don't stress too much if you are making mistakes, because you are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. All right? Cool. Perfect. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of grammatical gender with the first thing is that grammatical gender only is for nouns. What are nouns? Well, when you have your sentence in front of you, within your sentence you have verbs, you have adjectives, you have past participle or present participles, you have articles, you have plenty of different type of words, okay, within your sentence. And grammatical gender only applies to one specific type of word, the nouns. The nouns are generally the object, are generally the animals or the concepts inside your sentence. Let's see a few right now. For example, the word cheval, which means horse in English, is a noun. And in this instance, this noun is masculine. We say le cheval. The little word in front of it is called an article, and that is going to tell you if the word is masculine or feminine. Le is a mark of the masculine, le. On the contrary, la table, for example, the table. Table is a feminine word, and so we use la, the article la table. We'll go back into article in a minute. But you can see so that the word cheval, which is an animal, is masculine, but the word table is feminine. The word bébé, for example, which we have seen in last week's video about how to say cute in French, le bébé is a masculine word. You know, it doesn't matter if the baby is a girl or is a boy, the word baby, the word bébé, is a masculine word, okay? La fille, the word fille is feminine. Obviously, a daughter is always a woman, so in this instance, it's la, because it's the daughter who is a woman or a girl, and so it is a feminine word. Okay, cool. If you have questions, don't hesitate to send me something in the comments. I'm always there to reply. So how do you know? How do you know if a word is feminine or if a word is masculine? Are there rules? Are there rules you should follow to know if a word is feminine or masculine? And I have a very specific opinion on this. There are a few rules. Especially rules regarding countries or things like this. But I don't want you to go and check those rules, because those rules are completely irrelevant. The only way you're going to really understand when a word is feminine or masculine and when you're going to be able to use it fully is with repetition. So with the words that you are learning, with repetition, you should include a mark of the feminine or the masculine when you are learning them. And with repetition, you will know them. But there are really no rules. If you are looking at a text, for example, and there is a word and there is no way to know if it's masculine or feminine, in that case, you will need to check it in a dictionary, and I'll show you just how in a minute. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that there are no rules, and you might have heard of l'Académie Française. L'Académie Française is an institution composed mostly of men. I'm not really a fan of l'Académie Française, to be honest. It's an institution that is supposed to rule and to make French proper, if you will. And for example, there are dissidents between l'Académie Française and the way people are actually using the French language. Recently, there was a debate about if the word COVID, which is, the virus, le COVID, is a masculine word or a feminine word. And in this instance, l'Académie Française decided that COVID was going to be a feminine word. And so they want us to say la COVID, although in practicality we don't say la COVID because it sounds absolutely awful, so we say le COVID, and everyone is used to say le COVID, so you will actually find in a dictionary it's written la COVID, and it will say to you that COVID is a feminine word, when in reality we use the masculine here to refer to COVID, le COVID we say. But that's a very specific example, and generally everyone, even l'Académie Française, agrees on the gender of nouns. Now, how do you know? Where do you go to check if a word is feminine or masculine? You go in a dictionary, and here on the screen you have an example with the online dictionary wordreference.com, which is a very good French to English, and actually there are plenty of languages dictionary. I recommend you use this one instead of using Google Translate. I mean, it doesn't take you more time to use word reference that it would take you to use Google Translate. It's exactly the same principle, but with word reference, it gives you specific definition according to your context, so you go and check, and it gives you also, which is something that Google Translate might in the future, but for the moment it doesn't give you the grammatical gender everywhere. So you can see here with the red circles you have a little NM. It means it's a nom masculin, so masculine noun, okay? It means that the word chat in this instance is masculine, okay? So we say le chat, okay? Cool, perfect. So go and check wordreference.com if you don't know it. This should be your primary tool to translate French, okay? Now, before we get into how words modify a sentence, I wanted to give you a few warnings. There are some weird, I call them rules, but they're not really rules. There are some things that you should, look out for. For example, with homonyms. Homonyms are words that are written the same but don't mean the same thing, okay? For example, here on the screen you have different definitions for chat. The first one is a cat, and the second one is they translated into a chat room, okay, a chat room. So a cat or chat room, in this instance they both have the same gender. They don't refer to the same thing, but they both have the same gender. In some instance you're gonna have words that have two different gender. For example, it's the case with the word vase. Vase. Le vase means a vase, and it is a masculine word, but la vase, pronounced the same way, spelled the same way, but it's feminine, means the mud, okay? Well, you will be able to know which one you refer to according to the context, obviously, of the sentence that you are hearing this word in or reading this word in. It's also the case with the word book. Le livre. Le livre means the book. The masculine means the book. The feminine, la livre, means the pound, the English pound, okay? Generally, we say la livre anglaise, the English pound. Okay? Cool? That's the first thing I want you to look out for. Second thing, I also want to touch up on is the fact that some words have two versions. It's the case of job titles, for example, or anything that is related to people. For example, un agriculteur is a farmer, un agriculteur. But if you are saying that this farmer is a woman, you would need to say une agricultrice. Une agricultrice, feminine, a female farmer. Okay. It's the case of many job titles. There are a few where the feminine version is not as used, but it exists, and it's up to you if you want to use it or not. There are some words that you know also that have two gender. For example, un enfant, une enfant, which is a noun that refers to people, okay? If the child is masculine, if the child is a boy or a man, in this instance, then it is un enfant, but if it's a woman, a girl, it's une enfant, okay, so feminine, okay? There are also some pesky, annoying exceptions really that you shouldn't worry about that I'm going to mention here today because you might encounter them, so don't be surprised if, for example, a word is feminine in the singular but masculine in the plural or the other way around, and some words, and there are really only a couple of those, change grammatical gender according to their place in a sentence, okay? But don't worry too much about that. What you should actually understand and apply with feminine and masculine, it's what does it do? I mean, what does it do? What does it do, grammatical gender, really? Well, I told you in the beginning of this video, nouns and their grammatical gender influence the sentence. So they are going to have an influence on several types of words. The first one being the articles, which we talked about. The articles are those little words in front of nouns. For example, with la table, like I showed you, la is an article, un déterminant en français, and it is the article that you're going to use for feminine words. For le bébé, for the baby, then the is going to be le because bébé is a masculine word, okay? And there are other types of article, and I'm going to show you them here. So, for example, in English, if you want to say e or un, then if it's a masculine noun, you're going to use un. But if it is a feminine noun, you're going to use une. If you want to say the or the in English, you're going to use le or the L apostrophe. The L apostrophe is pronounced le, and it is used when the word begins with a vowel. Okay, so le for masculine, and la for feminine. If you want to say some, then in that case, with masculine nouns, you would say de, and with feminine nouns, you would say de la. I encourage you to screenshot this and have this next to you when you want to write in French. When you want to speak in French, no problem, but when you want to write in French, you have the time to actually look at this chart. Okay, cool. Now, there is a different type of word that is changed according to the grammatical gender of the noun, and it is the adjective. Adjectives are words that give information on the noun, okay? They are words that are usually glued to the noun that they refer to, and they are giving you more information about its generally characteristic. For example, here, une grande fille, the adjective is grande, and it tells you that the girl or the daughter here is tall, okay? And so here, because fille is a feminine word, then we're going to use the feminine version of the adjective grande. Although, if the word is masculine, like in this example, un garçon, we're going to say un grand garçon, a tall boy. You actually can see here that generally the feminine version of the adjective is simply to add an E at the end, and that means that the end consonant is actually pronounced. So un grand, we don't pronounce the D at the end, but grande, we pronounce the D at the end because there is a vowel after it. Okay? Cool. Now, if you want to see practical examples of this and practical example in sentences, check out my video, my last video, which is how to say cute in French. I will put the link in the description. I gave you plenty of examples on when to use which version of the adjective. Now, there is the third type of word that grammatical gender of noun changes, and it is the past participle. Now, if you are a beginner or an intermediate here, well, intermediate, yes, you can follow. If you are a beginner, this doesn't really matter. Go to the next chapter of this video. So when you are using compound tenses, so tenses that have several parts of them. Generally, there is an auxiliary and there is a past participle, okay? And this past participle, which is not easy to say in English, the past participle changes or is modified according to the gender of the noun, generally the gender of the subject here of your sentence. For example, in the sentence, la classe est finie, the class is over, then in that case, because la classe is feminine, we can see that with the article here, then fini, which is the past participle here, is gonna take an E at the end because that's feminine. But here, in this instance, le livre est fini, the book is over, then in that case, the book, le livre, as you can see with the article, le livre is masculine, and so fini doesn't take an E at the end. How do you know which endings you should put? It all is going to depend on the group of the verb, okay? For the first group, in masculine, you're going to use an e with the accent, E with the accent. And if it's feminine, you're gonna write e IE at the end of your verbal base. If it is a verb of the second group, then in that case it's I for the masculine and IE for the feminine. And third group, there are different situations. Either it's an S or US at the masculine, or USE or UTE, sorry, at the end for a feminine. Okay? Cool. Now, let's recap, because there was a lot of information here. So, what is grammatical gender? Well, it's grammatical, which means that it doesn't actually influence the sex. It doesn't actually influence, it doesn't mean that it's a woman or a male or a girl or a boy. It's grammatical only, okay? It is applied to nouns, but there is no real universal rules, and you shouldn't expect to find rules on how to know if a word is feminine or if a word is masculine. Even though those rules exist, they are actually going to block you when it comes to using those words. So just learn them by heart, learn them with repetition, instead of trying to understand the basic rules. Where are you going to find those, if a word is feminine or masculine? You're going to find it in a dictionary. I recommend wordreference.com, which is very easy to use. And what does it do then, grammatical gender? Well, grammatical gender of a noun changes things in a sentence. It changes 3 types of words. It changes articles that refer to the noun, obviously. It changes adjectives that refer to the noun as well, and it changes past participles as well within a sentence. Now, I hope this is a little bit clearer, okay? The goal here is not for you to remember everything. It's really for you to have an understanding of what is feminine and what is masculine and what it's going to mean inside your sentence. Now, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this lesson, please join us at the French Club. The French Club is a newsletter, and you will receive the newsletter every day with exclusive lessons and tips on how to learn French. It's where I actually explain my methodology when it comes to teaching French. It's where I'm going to teach you how to use the 3-step method to learn French. You will also get offers and discounts on my products, which you can find on the school, and the link is in the description. And you'll join over 3,500 learners that are already receiving it every day. So to sign up, you just click on the link in the description, and I'll see you there. Bye!